All right. Welcome, Erin. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Can you start by just telling me a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then I'll kind of set the stage for the conversation today.
Yeah, sure. So I help women mainly transform their relationship with money, really from feelings of fear and guilt and shame to ones of like sufficiency, joy, fun, trust. And my background is in financial planning. And then I helped run my family's construction business for 10 plus years.
Okay, that's great. So I asked you to have this conversation with me today because I am feeling a shift in the financial landscape right now. It's really been over the last year and a half, I think. Really early 2024, I started to see people feel more nervous about money. I think there's been a lot of things going on in the last year and a half there and just kind of continues to be. Now we're in the middle of tax season right now as we're making this, so there's that. It feels like there's been a lot on people's minds around money, and I'm seeing more nervousness to spend. I'm seeing people nervous about their businesses and kind of what to do in order to stay financially stable. And you and I have talked about before that there are kind of cycles that we go through, like just in general, seasonally. There are cycles where it's a little bit slower in the summer and it's a little bit slower around the holidays. People are spending less in those times. And then, January and September, people are ready to spend all of the money, do all of the things. And so there are cycles we go through naturally. And I feel like this is kind of a bigger cycle that we've entered in where people are orienting a little bit differently to their money, thinking about it differently. And I'm picking up on just a lot of nervousness. So I thought it would be great to have a conversation with you about this, about the work that you do, and kind of tying that in. So to open it up, I'd love to hear you just kind of reflect on what I just said that I'm seeing in this last little bit, and what you're seeing and how that's feeling to you.
It's interesting that you said that because what came to mind too was like during COVID. And, like I think that if you put on the buyer's hat, I think as a buyer, we have become more informed. I think during like the 2020 to maybe 20, like you're saying, 2024, like at least in the online space, like it was so much of like people were just craving community and things of that sort. And so like you could literally sell something and not really have to deliver on it. I know that sounds so terrible, but like that's like, I know I have invested in coaches and they have told me this is what they're going to, give. And that is not what they did. And so I think from the buyer's hat, it's like we're more, not the word decisive, but we're more particular about who we invest in or what we invest in because some of us have been burned. So I think that there's that part of it. And then I
Mm.
think from the part that you're talking about with the financial part is like, I think there are seasons. And I think also too of, is that also just coming up because we already have that fear within us? So the point I was trying to make with COVID is for some people that went through COVID, it was terrifying. They didn't, it was almost like a shutdown for them. For some people, it didn't really impact them from a fear-based place. And so I'm curious if some of this is what you're describing is, do we already have that fear within us and it's coming out because it's the circumstances presenting itself, and so we're getting shown where do our really deep seated fears already lie, and it's presenting as money, but it's those deeper seated fears that we have within us.
I think that makes a lot of sense in the idea of the big stuff that is happening right now, because like I said, going back to the seasonal shifts, I feel like I see every year people panicking, and I experience this myself when things start to get a little bit slower in the summer and the winter. You're like, oh my gosh, do I need to do something different? Like, is it me? Is it what's happening? And so I think it is really easy for those types of things to surface because they're already existing, because there's something else there that needs to be examined, which is the work that you do. So this is great.
I think also too, like the law of rhythm. I think in business, I don't know where it came from, where it got started, where we bought into, like, business is just like this. And if you've been in, and I know that I'm, newer to the online business world because I'm coming back, but like in the construction business, we had ebbs and flows, right? Like that's just
Mhm.
part of it. And in any business, you have ebbs and flows. And I think what happens is we freak out when we are in that trough, right? But we're not thinking like, we pay attention to the highs, but then when we're in the trough, we're like, oh my gosh, something's wrong, versus like the
Mhm.
law of rhythm is like nature, right? Like nature is not full blown all the time. And it's the same way with business. And I think if we don't look at it from that perspective, and we think like we should always be growing, 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 it's like, but where do we actually either, have some even out, or even some, even if you're in a trough, how is that actually helpful to you? How is that allowing you more space to figure
Mhm.
out what you do want, what is working, what isn't working? If you're always on this upward trajectory and you're going 90 miles an hour, where are you giving your space, yourself the space, your business the space, just really, I don't think a lot of us intentionally put in time in our calendar to just ponder and think. And so sometimes that happens for us to look and see what is working, what isn't working, what do I want to continue to do, and recommit to that faith and that certainty that we have in ourselves, in what
Mhm.
we're, in our business, what we're creating in the world, how we're serving people. Because if every time something outside of us, that is such a reactionary way of being, right? If something changes outside of us and then we think, oh my goodness, something's wrong, we haven't developed the skill set within us to be like, I am certain, I am confident, I am resourceful, I will figure this out. And sometimes it might be, some things we do need to change, but if we're in this rushed panic state, how are we able to look within and be like, hey, you know what? I need to increase my certainty in myself. I need to increase my
Mhm.
confidence. I need to increase, my belief that I'm on the right path. And, maybe it is, maybe I need to learn patience. I mean, there's just so many lessons that we might, that are coming up for us that we need to learn. And I think that we've been sold that like business is always up, and I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if that's true. At
Mhm.
least I haven't
Yeah.
seen it, that has been
Yeah.
my experience.
Yes. Yeah, yes, I agree. I think it can be such a gift to have time to be able to reflect and to spend time being a little bit slower sometimes. And I'll feel that way sometimes when I will get sick if I am pushing too hard and I catch something and I'm like, okay, I need to just sit here and reflect for a little while. I think there's definitely seasons for that because you reflect and you get to learn things that then when you're feeling better or when things are picking up again, you get to kind of take and implement, which is great. But if in those troughs that you're talking about, we are just in a complete panic and running around in circles, then it's not going to be a good use of time for anything. Like when things do pick up again, we're going to be recovering because we were running around in circles. And so being able to be in a place where we can um, have the wisdom to know that there are cycles that we're going to go through, that there are ups and downs, and being able to plan for that and have peace with that and be present with that feels like a really big thing. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the running around in circles, some of the things that happen when people are in this fear-based headspace, and then go into talking a little bit about what we can do about it instead. Um, so so some of the things that I see, and I definitely have experienced my own on my own when I get in a place of being under financial pressure, is this kind of like desperation that comes in, particularly with sales and marketing.
Mhm.
And so we've all kind of seen like this
Mhm.
aggressive marketing technique, or when you can just tell, you can
Mhm.
sense that someone has this like, I need to close the sale, and the feeling you get when you feel that from somebody else is, ooh, ooh, yeah.
How do I run faster?
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts and experience with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that I was probably there when I first started my coaching practice, because I was building it from, looking back now, I was building it from a place of fear, right? there probably was some part of me that was trying to build it to prove to my dad, you know what, I can create my own, business. Like there was that whole thing of like, I don't want to buy your business. I don't want to do that. And so that whole, you know, when in the beginning, I probably was very much in a fear-based place, like, oh, I have to replace my income and I can't use any of our savings and I have to hurry and pressure, And so we've all been there, right? And we know, here's the thing is, when you are there because how you feel in your body. And so this is what some of the work that I do is like really slowing down and getting connected, because when you are in that place, really there's all kinds of emotions, but really there's like love and there's fear. Like if we just really boil it down to those two emotions. So when you are in fear, you're in a very, like what you're saying, that like, I call it like taking energy, like you want them to buy something because you need something, right? Versus when you're in love and sufficiency and like, listen, that I have a great product. And I also understand if you don't want to buy it, that's okay. Like there's someone else that will. That's very giving energy. And I think you have to slow down to decipher where are you in. And if we are constantly like, because the body is like, this is life or death right now. You need to hurry up, right? That's what it feels like, at least in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So the more that we can get practiced at feeling that, I mean, I just felt it this morning. I was like, whew, what is happening here? And I was like, hang on a second. And I just allowed myself, and I did a little bit of journaling, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is just what the body likes to do when you've had so much ease and calm. It's almost like a window of tolerance where it just serves up that like, hey, fear, you haven't felt fear in a while. Like you need to feel fear right now. And so recognizing that sometimes like our bodies are used to feeling some of those lower vibration emotions like fear, And so when you're in it, really, I say like getting to the point of like what I call clean energy of like, I am here to serve you. I am here to offer my solution. And if you want it, great. I think it's an amazing choice if you take it. And if you don't, that's okay too. And I think when we come from that fear-based place, we're like, we need you to say yes, because I need this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this comes with, it's like anything else. It's a skill set that we practice and we see like, oh, what energy am I in when I'm talking to someone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like feeling myself take deep breaths as you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice to have somebody else say it to you.
Yeah.
But I feel like doing one of the best things you can do for yourself, I think one of the best things I've done for myself is teaching myself to have like the tools and the recognition
Yes.
to stop. Like just even if I can't fix it right away, I can't
Yep.
change my mindset right away. How do I stop and slow down? And I was just listening to one of your podcast episodes about the questions that you ask yourself to get clear on your money blocks.
Mm.
And I think questions are my favorite tool. If I can have a question or three questions, like you had in this instance, where when I feel myself feeling panic, that triggers me to ask a question. And then I have to sit and think about it. And it makes me slow down enough to become a little more aware of what's going on with me and then maybe look at changing it.
Yeah. I think, like you're saying, what are your go-to tools in your toolkit? Because when you're in that state, you're not necessarily thinking, because you literally are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? Like we wouldn't term it as that way, but that's what the body is doing, right? And
Yeah.
so when you have these practices in place, like for me, like you were saying, like, okay, I return back to my breath, or I'll go put my feet outside, or I'll just go for a walk and move some of that energy. Like you said, ask some of those questions, like really getting clear. So like, what are a couple of things that you can, each of us, which they're going to be different, right? But what are those couple of things that we can always go back to our toolkit when we're feeling this way to calm our nervous system and to tell us, I mean, my Legree teacher, I love her. She'll say things like, you're okay. You can do this. Right. And it's like, that's what we have to tell ourselves, right? Like this
Uh-huh.
morning, I was like, it's okay. I've felt this before. I can feel any emotion. I know what this feels like. It's okay, Erin. And it's like what you would do to a 5-year-old, but literally like, that's what we need in that moment. Like, it's okay.
Mhm.
Right. In this moment, I am okay. And I know it doesn't feel like that in the body, but it's one of those things that the more that it happens, the more that we see, oh, we can calm ourselves, we can soothe ourselves. then we can come out of that fight, flight, freeze, and we can actually think from a creative place, because nothing happens. You cannot think creatively when you are in, fight, flight, freeze, stressed, panic. Like, no good ideas come from that.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Which brings me to the next thing I was going to say that I see a lot when people are in this state is quickly moving from one thing to the next. So what I'm doing must not be working. You don't necessarily know that. You don't necessarily even think about that. You're just jumping to, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this. Suddenly your audience has no idea what you do. They're yanked all over the place with everything. And then nothing that you're putting out there is actually solid, is actually aligned. It's maybe based on kind of those best practice tips that you hear that maybe aren't a way that you would want to be marketed to. There's just a lot of it's really easy to get pulled into those things. I don't know how many times in my business that I was like, oh, I should do this because it feels like a solution to you. And when you actually think about it and sit with it and feel it, it doesn't feel like an aligned solution. It's a decision made out of that panic and that financial pressure. So yes, tying back into everything you're talking about with that, when you're running and making those decisions quickly, there's no actual like creativity or groundedness in those decisions. You have to stop first and make a decision from that place, even though it feels like you're going against everything your body is telling you to do in that moment.
And I mean, I know people listening to this might be like, yeah, but give me like the actual strategies and the practical tools. Okay. And I will say to that person, because I used to be this person and I still show up sometimes. I'm like, hang on a second, Erin. This is the practical strategy. This is the actual tool, right? This is the quick 3 steps. This is the quick, fast money making thing. This is the stuff, right? It's not sexy. It's not, it's not fun to be like, I'm sweating or I have these rashes or, I've been on the toilet or whatever it is, because you're actually feeling and processing emotions and you're going through things that you have suppressed and repressed for so long. But here's what I will say is that when you do this work, because you're going to take yourself wherever you go. So whatever you're making right now, you're going to just amplify that 10x it, 100x it, whatever, right? And so do you actually want to take who you are as a person right now as you grow your business? Or do you want to slow down and develop the skill set so that when this stuff does happen, and it will, when you're 10x, 100x, you have the skill set and the tools to come back to be like, okay, right? Because how we build and who we are, we're going to build that. We think like we're going to get to some magic number and it's all going to go away. It's like, it's never going to go away. Right. And the more that we can lean into that, like I used to get I remember we were still living in Texas and it was maybe 2021. And I remember turning to my husband and being like, I am so tired of this money thing. Like, I just want to be over it already, almost like this frustration. And it's like, at that point, I realized like, okay, what if, Erin, you never are? What if it's always like, what if that is what your soul came here to actually do? And every level you're going to feel it again and you're going to transcend it, and like easing into that versus like, I hurry up. I want this to go away, fix this really quick so I don't have to feel this anymore.
Yeah. That's great. So let's talk about a little bit more of like what this means. We slow down. How can we put a different type of relationship with money in place so that we can not be thrown off so much when these things come up? So staying grounded, building a better relationship with money is something that you talk about a lot. And I love the idea, even alone, of building a relationship with money is just something that wasn't ever on my radar growing up. Like, that was not something that I ever heard. Like, money was this thing that I had to make, I had to achieve. It was this, constant pressure. But having a relationship with money makes you kind of stop and be like, like what, how do I do that? And so I want to talk a little bit about kind of some of the work you do with helping people build a relationship with money, and how the importance of stopping and reflecting and getting to know yourself can help you show up for that relationship in a way that is going to be successful.
Yeah. I think every everything, right, is our relationship. It's literally our perception, our thoughts, our feelings about our spouse, me and you, outside, money, business, all of these things. So, and what I have found is that our relationship with money is very similar to what we think about ourselves.
Mm.
And so what I came to realize was, 4 or 5 years ago, it was very much not enough. It was all rooted in inadequacy, unworthiness, undeservedness and that's what I thought about my money. And that's what I thought about myself. And so in, helping people, I think the first step is always awareness, like actually write down, what do you think about money? When I say, your bank account is zero or your bank account is negative, what do you feel in your body? When I say you have $500,000 in your account, what do you feel in your body? And if you are like vacillating, like, oh, it feels really good, and oh, it doesn't, right? That's an invitation for us to be like, oh, how are we depending our feelings based on some external thing outside of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always say, start with like, what is your relationship like? If I were to ask you, if your kid were to come to you, is there a certain level that there's like, oh, that feels too much? What is your language about like, oh, that's expensive, or I can't afford that, or I can't invest in myself, or, it's just recognizing what is the language that you're currently using when you talk about money. And then from there, how do you actually want to be in a relationship with money? Like I use my husband as an example because I feel like we have a really grounded relationship. There's certainty there. There's trust there. Like I'm not sitting over there being like, is he going to cheat on me? Is he going to come home? Is he going to be there for me today? Like when you say it like that from a spouse relationship, like that's a lot of times what we think about money. Are you going to be there? Like, well, like we don't trust it. We don't trust it. Like, are you coming? Are you coming? Are you coming? It's kind of like the same thing that we were with cells, right? It's like that energy. And so we're blocking it when we're from that place versus like money loves to support us, right? Money loves to be with us. It wants to be taken care of. Like I think money is masculine and it's feminine, right? Like it loves to flow to us. It loves to give us what we want, which is very feminine. And I think it's very masculine. Like it loves to provide for us. It loves to, and so how do you want to be with money? And this is not taught in schools. This is not taught, like none of my finance classes were like, so let's talk about your relationship with money.
Yeah.
It's very what I call 3D, very much of like, this is business. This is how accounting works. This is how investments work. Right. But like our relationship with it is really what matters. If it stays around, if we grow it, if it, expands, or if it comes to us quickly or it leaves quickly, like that is all based on how we feel about money.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, tell me a little bit about how human design plays into this as a tool, because you have a 4-part video workshop series that walks people through financial ease with human design. And I know you use that as a tool for self-identity so that you can be in that relationship. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things. Like I learned, that you make decisions from your head, growing up, very like pros and cons list and things of that. So first and foremost is like helping people tap back into their intuition, and using your decision-making style to trust that, because we have been so conditioned to like, what are the pros and cons? And, does that sound like good financial advice? And so we've been very conditioned to be what I call in our head versus actually trusting. Here you go back to trust, right? Mm-hmm. Trusting our bodies, trusting whatever you believe in, God, spirit, source, divine, universal intelligence. Like there's something that's bigger than us that we are co-creating with. And like, are we tapping into that, or are we thinking that we're doing this all on our own? So first and foremost is understanding like, how do you make decisions? And also how do you run a business? Like there's 5 types. And I think about like the manifestor type is very much, I think the way that the business world has been, is very like, you have an idea and you go initiate and you just do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the 91% of us are not manifestors, right? Like we're very much so like we respond to things. And so when I was trying to build a business from that space, it felt like I was forcing every single thing because I was doing it from not a genuine place of how my design is. So
Mhm.
it's the decision making, it's also trusting your intuition. And then I have, kind of broken down how like each center, how it applies to money. Like I think a lot of us are trying to build our business from lack, from fear, from feeling unworthy, from feeling not lovable. And so we're trying, here you go back to that getting energy. We're trying to have our business fill our cup, right? But if our cup
Mhm.
has a hole in it, like there's no amount that we can do, right? To fill that up. And so really seeing like how has your chart played into your relationship with money, and then how to start like really, I call it like settling back into yourself and trusting yourself and, you know, learning to love yourself, changing your self concept. We came here fully abundant, love and light. And then somewhere along the way, right? Someone told us or said something, and then we thought otherwise. So really returning what I call like back home to ourselves and
Mhm.
really building a business from a place of wholeness, of completeness. It's just like an addition to versus like, I hope if I get this, then I'm going to feel successful. If I get to this number, then I'm going to feel XYZ versus like generating that within us. And so
Mhm.
kind of showing and using your design to show you like how to navigate that.
That's so good. Yeah, going back to your relationship parallel with you and your husband, or any, our relationship with our spouse, significant other, friend, even. Um, something I've experienced in my life is that if you're not doing your work to, not have a hole in your cup, to make sure you're taken care of and you understand and know and love yourself, it's really hard to love another person
Mhm.
completely. And you can feel wanting to have that person,
Mhm.
get it from that person instead of getting it from yourself. And I feel like a lot of us can relate to that type of experience. And putting this back on money, if we don't take the time to heal the way that we feel about money, to write the story that we want to have, then to be able to have a relationship with it isn't going to be possible. So not only have we never heard that term and it's never occurred to us, it's not possible unless you do that work first and really understand yourself. Does that feel accurate to you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like we're trying to change the external to get us to feel on the internal, but that's not the way. Like we live in a cause and effect world, right? Like we have to feel this way first and then we see it in the external. And I
Yeah.
think so many of us have been taught, I mean, like we don't have cable. So when we go like to different hotels, like my kid loves to watch cable because we have no cable and there's no
Yep.
like ads or whatever. But there's always some type of commercial of like, oh, this is what you need. This is what you need. Like we're taught in the world, right? Like that there's something wrong with you and you need this thing to feel this way
Hmm.
versus no, you feel this first and then it shows up on the outside. And with money, I think so often, I mean, it'll make me cry because I'm just like, how many of us, and this was for me for sure, of like, I was so hard on money. Like, I can't imagine if that was a person, if that was my daughter, of what I used to say to money, like, you're not good enough. It's never enough. And just that feeling of like, yeah, inadequacy and not enoughness. Well, why would money want to hang out with us? You know,
Mm.
why would
Yeah.
money want to like, it's almost like verbal abuse. Like, why do I want to go and be in a relationship with someone's like, you're not enough. Here you are again, not here, you know? It
Yeah.
doesn't feel good. And money wants to have fun. Money wants to support us. Money wants us to trust it.
Hmm.
And like, and I do think that I know I'm like I'm talking out both sides of my ass. Like I think that we will constantly up level, right? So the healing's never done. And also we can change a belief very quickly too.
Yeah.
So like allowing for both of those parts. But we could just decide, like I want to have fun with money. What would that look like in order for me to have fun with money? And it
Hmm.
doesn't mean you need to go use all your savings, but maybe that's like, hey, money, you want to go on a date? You want to go, like, what do you like to do? Something small that maybe isn't so outside your window of tolerance. Like, you know what, like yesterday I was like, you know what, I'm going to go buy some nail polish. I'm going to go get a little latte, you know, like I'm just going to go have some fun with money, you know? So it's just like, how often do we practice having fun with money versus it's just a serious thing that we have to have. And it's, you know, that attachment that we have to it. And it feels like a lot of pressure, you know?
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's all really great. The idea of continuing to work towards this mindset that you can both make a quick decision that can help you right away. You know, from listening to this
Yeah.
video, you can make a decision that I'm going to go on a date with money and have some fun. And that can make a big impact, but it is something we're going to learn again and again, and we're going to go through these cycles. So one of the things, the last thing here I wanted to kind of talk about is another great tool, I think, for me in keeping that awareness and bringing myself back to this again and again so that I can learn it a little bit more and get a little bit better and practice these tools is other people. I think
Yes.
having other people around, it's really easy as an entrepreneur to kind of silo yourself in and be doing something for a long time and get really far down a road without anybody saying, hey, have you thought about it this way? Or, you know, like getting you out of your perspective. And I am so fortunate to have great humans in my life that ask me how I'm doing, that ask me what's going on with my business and my life. And I get to reflect. And I find myself reflecting in answering that in ways that I haven't
Mm,
on my own, you know, that
yeah.
people bring it out of you. And then additionally, when you have a community of entrepreneurs, especially, and you're feeling tight on money, instead of panicking and saying, what I'm doing must not be working, you can say, are you guys feeling this? And they can be like, oh yeah, things are slow right now. It's not just you. And you get to skip that whole panic phase. So um, this is, I think, a lot of the value for me of building this MOCA community. And you have your own community as well that you focus on money mindset tips. Is that right?
Yeah. I recently
Yeah.
started, you know, I'm not like a huge social media person, but I'm like, where can I have a community for women to like come to share like a safe space, you know, a
Yeah.
safe space to share and talk about what they're experiencing with money and, you know, having, you know, me asking, inviting questions for them to ponder, but a place where we can say, you know what, because every woman I have ever talked to, and I mean, men show it differently, but women, it's like they think that they're the only ones that go through this, right? And so
Mhm.
when I say, you know what, your response is just like, you know, someone else I just talked to, you can literally see their shoulders relax. Like we
Yeah.
think that we're doing like what you're saying, we're doing this by ourselves because we think that there's something wrong with us, right? But this isn't something, I think maybe it's changing somewhat in the spiritual world, but like this is something that we weren't taught growing up, right? And you don't get in business school. And so if you don't get it there, well, where are you supposed to get it and connect with? And I think for a lot of like masterminds, you have such a sometimes it can feel like an ego place where it doesn't necessarily feel safe to be like, yeah, I'm having a really hard time right now. You know, like where you just get to let the guard down and you get to share some of that stuff. I think it depends on the mastermind that you're in, but you know, I think that it's really important to have community. Like as humans, right? We want connection. We want to connect and relate to other humans. And when, you
Mhm.
know, if you're a one man, I mean, I recognize it in myself. When I'm doing too much work by myself, I'm like, I need to be with the humans, you know? And so recognizing that within yourself. And for some of us, it's going to be different levels, right? I mean, there are some people that want to be with them all the time. There's some that come in and out, whatever, but just the community is such an important piece because I think when you first of all, you have someone that can see you in a different light than how you see yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like when you hear the stories in your brain and you're, you know, going down that rabbit hole like you're talking about, I can be like, Jess, what are you talking about? You're amazing. You know what I mean? Like, but really, and not just fill you up with, but like literally, like you see someone in a different view than how they see themselves. You see them in their higher self. And I think that that really matters. And I think it really helps. Like you said, it gets you out so much quicker. Um, because you have someone to, and you also have people to celebrate with you. Like it's fun to celebrate, like, energetically, like the more people that are celebrating someone's success, like that is a reflection that that's there for you too. And so having that, I think, is an amazing thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's just a need for being a human in general, but I especially love the idea of a community centered around come talk about money, because even in the really comfortable groups and connections that we find ourselves in, money feels like this topic that we don't talk about. We might talk about some of the pain points of, I think I need to work on my sales call. What someone's really saying there is, I'm struggling with money, but it's really hard to say I am struggling with money. So having a safe place to do that feels very powerful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for the wonderful conversation on all of these great resources and tips. And it was a pleasure to chat with you today.
Thanks for having me, Jess. Always a pleasure.